Okay, I'm going to start talking about section 2.5. 2.5 is called applying the remainder and factor theorems in Algebra 2. And to do that, basically it's going to involve long division, synthetic division, and then applying those concepts for factoring. Example 1 is using long division. So they want us to divide this using long division. 3x to the fourth minus 5x to the third plus, how many x squareds are there? 0x squareds plus 4x minus 6. And what's all that divided by? Well, it'd be x squared minus 3x plus 15. I'm setting this up to do by long division. So x squared times what is 3x to the fourth? Well, that would be 3x squared. 3x squared times x squared is 3x to the fourth. 3x squared times negative 3x is negative 9x to the third. So I line it up. Then negative 3x squared times 15 is negative 45x squared. If I did not put the 0x squared there, I wouldn't have a place to put that. Apparently I can't read my own writing because this is a 5, not a 15. So let me fix that. We'll get rid of this right here. Everything else is going to be the same, except that's not a 15, that's a 5. So what's 3x squared times 5? A positive, is that a 15x squared? So now how do I do division at this point? You change your signs and add. So I'm going to change the signs and add. Hopefully those add to 0. So this should come down as 4x to the third, and I think a negative 15x squared, and I'll bring the remainder of it down also. Okay, at this point I want to know x squared times what gives me 4x to the third. Well, it would be x squared times 4. I need a 4, and I think I probably need an x, right? What's 4x times x squared? 4x to the third. What's 4x times negative 3x? Negative 12x squared. And what's 4x times 5? 20x. Again, at this point in division, you want to change your signs and add. So I'm going to do that. Those are going to add to 0. These appear to add to negative 3x squared. And what would this be? Negative 16x. Let me verify. Give me a second. I think it's good. Now I'm going to do x squared times what gives me negative 3x squared? X squared times a negative 3, right? So negative 3 times x squared is negative 3x squared. Negative 3 times negative 3x is a positive 9x. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. Again, at this point, we're going to change our signs and add. Those should add to 0. That appears to be what? A negative 25x. And that's plus, is that a 9? So now that the power is smaller, you're going to have, this is called the remainder. So right now I have 3x squared plus 4x minus 3. That's what I have up here. Then you put plus your remainder over your divisor. So it's going to be over x squared minus 3x plus 5. It's a little tricky when you get remainders that you just have to put over the divisor. Let's look at another example. Here's example 2. They want us to do it with synthetic division. To use synthetic division, you have to make sure all powers are represented in decreasing order. X to the 3, x to the 2, x to the 1, x to the 0. They're all there. So at this point, I bring down my coefficients, 1, 5, -7, and a 2. I leave a space, draw a line, make a box. The number that goes in the box will be whatever makes this 0. So it's going to be, one of the zeros is when x is 2. So I'm going to use a 2 inside that box. The procedure is you bring the first number down. So I bring a 1 down. Then you multiply. 2 times 1 is 2. You put it here and add. 5 plus 2 is 7. Now you multiply. 2 times 7 is 14. Add is 7. 2 times 7 is 14. You add and you get 16. 16 is what's called your remainder. Okay, so now we have it as this is our remainder. But the 1 here means that it's going to be 1x to the 1 less than 3 would be 2, plus 7x plus 7 plus your remainder over your divisor. So your answer is going to be x squared plus 7x plus 7 plus your remainder of 16 over the divisor of x minus 2. Okay, after example 2, let's jump to example 4. They want us to factor this polynomial if I know one of the factors. So here's the way I would approach it. Because I know that it's a, this basically, the solution of this is -2, it's an integer, I might do this using synthetic. So all my powers represented in decreasing order, x to the 3, x to the 2, x to the 1, x to the 0. So I'll bring down my coefficients, 3, -4, -28, and -16. Again, leave a space, draw a line, make a box. The number that goes in the box is whatever your 0 is. So in this case, one of your zeros is -2. So -2 goes in the box. So I'm going to follow the same procedure that I did for synthetic last time. The first one comes down. 3 comes down. Then I multiply. What's -2 times 3? -6. I put it up here and add, which gives me -10. Multiply that by -2. That gives you 20. When you add, gives you -8. When you multiply, you get a 16. And that makes your remainder 0, which means it divides in evenly, which I already knew because it says it was a factor. But here's what this means, and here's a lot of people fall apart at this point. X plus 2 is a factor. That comes from this. That comes from this. Also, it tells me it's a factor, right? What does this mean? 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. Now, does this factor? What's a times c on this one? A times c, 3 times -8 is -24. And what's b? -10. So would those multiply? -12 and 2. Would they multiply to -24 and would they add to 10? So this apparently factors a little bit further. How do you get 3x squared? 3x times x, right? 3 goes into which of those numbers? The -12, and I put the 2 here. 3 times what is -12? 3 times -4. 1 times what is 2? That'd be a +2. So completely factored, you'd have x plus 2, 3x plus 2 times x minus 4. Now that's using synthetic division for factoring purposes. Okay, here they give me a 0. They want us to find the other zeros. So are all the powers represented in decreasing order? Yes. So I bring down my coefficients. And it tells me one of the zeros, does it not? I believe. Doesn't it tell me one of the zeros is -2? So if I put a -2 in here, I better get a remainder of 0. Bring the first number down, multiply is -2, add is 0. Multiply is 0, add is -9. Multiply is 18, that does make my remainder 0. So, what does this mean? This means 1x squared. This meant what? X plus 2. This means 1x squared plus 0x minus 9. So that means that's x squared minus 9. And again, we're trying to find zeros, so these have to equal 0. How does that x squared minus 9 factor? X plus 3, x minus 3. So what makes each factor a 0 would be -2, -3, and +3. Now they gave us a 0 up here, and I used that to solve this, because I think I could do this even without them giving us that 0. What was my original function? Was it x to the third minus 2x squared minus 9x minus 18 that I was trying to find the zeros of? 4 terms, split it. Where am I missed something?
Yeah, where it's 2x, it's not negative, it's positive.
You're right. This should be plus right here, right?
Yep.
Thank you. If I factor out an x squared out of the first two, what would I have? X plus 2. Does that look right? If I factor a -9 out of these, would that give me an x plus 2? If I take the x plus 2 out of both of them, what's remaining? X squared minus 9. How does that factor? X plus 3, x minus 3. So I think I could have got these same answers just simply by factoring. Let me tell you, you can't always do it that way. So they're giving you this 0 here for a purpose. Okay, number 1, long division. I have x squared plus x minus 17, and that's divided by x minus 4. X times what is x squared? X times x is x squared. X times -4 is -4x. So you took the x times both of these things. Now, in division, we have to change the sign and add. So those drop off. 1x plus 4x is 5x. So now I'm going to say x times what is 5x? Well, it'll be x times a positive 5. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times -4 is -20. Again, in division at this point, you change the signs and add. So change your signs and add. It looks to me like the remainder is 3. So you have x plus 5 plus your remainder over your divisor, which is the part out front here. Okay, that one they wanted by long division. I'm going to do the first one in a bunch of the sections. This one they want synthetic. Are all powers represented decreasing order? X to 2, x to 1, x to 0. Looks like they are. Bring down your coefficients. So my coefficients are 2, -7, and 10. That comes from these. And what is that divided by? X minus 5. But what makes this 0 would be 5. So 5 is what goes in the box. So bring down your first number, 2. Multiply. 5 times 2 is 10. It goes here and you add. Negative 7 plus 10 is 3. Multiply. 5 times 3 is 15. Add makes your remainder 25. So what does this mean? This means 2x plus 3 plus your remainder of 25 over the divisor of x minus 5. Okay, how about number 21? They give us a factor. Could we find the others? Let's see. Are all my powers represented? Yes. So I bring down my coefficients. 1, negative 10, 19, and 30. Leave a space, draw a line, make a box. The number that goes in the box is what makes this 0, which is 6. Again, the procedure is you bring the first number down, so the 1 comes down. 6 times 1, you put it here, is 6. Then you add. Negative 10 plus 6 is negative 4. Multiply is negative 24. Add is 5. Okay, if I add these, I believe I get 5, so 6 times 5 now makes 30. Negative. This is negative 5. It gives me a negative 30, which makes the remainder 0, which has to be if that's a factor. So what this means is, just so you know, that means x minus 6, which we already knew from up here. This means 1x squared minus 4x minus 5. How would that factor? X times x. Well, multiplies the negative 5 but adds the negative 4. Negative 5 and positive 1. If they want us to factor completely, that would be the answer. If they wanted the zeros, it would be it'd be positive 6, 5, and negative 1. But I believe 21 says to factor completely. Yes. 29 wants us to find the zeros. To do this, we're going to do very similar. Bring down the coefficients as long as all the powers are represented, which they appear to be. The number that goes in the box is going to be whatever the 0 is, negative 3. So again, if we do it right, we're going to get a remainder of 0 at the end. So let's find out. Bring the first number down, multiply. That'd be negative 3, and add. Negative 5. Multiply would be 15. When you add is what? Negative 6. Negative 3 times negative 6 is 18. Those add to 0, so your remainder is 0. So what this meant was x plus 3. This means 1x squared minus 5x minus 6. And again, I'm trying to find zeros. So how does this factor? Factors, x times x is x squared, but what multiplies to negative 6 but adds to negative 5? Negative 6 and positive 1. Since you're multiplying to equal 0, what makes each of these equal 0? X equals negative 3, but I already knew that. That was up here. What makes this 0 would be x equals 6, and what makes this one 0 is x equals negative 1. So we found the zeros, the additional zeros. Negative 3 was given, and it wants you to find the other zeros. Okay, that's one of each. I hope this helps. Good luck with the section. Bring in some questions.